Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hiking and History. Today we are going to be going to a completely new place I've never been before, called Chartley Castle, which I'm almost there at the moment. It should appear, I've just come on the bus down here and it's just behind these trees. So we're going to go check out Chartley Castle, which we have a really nice, beautiful wintry day. It's actually not very cold, but it's quite lovely today. This episode is probably not going to be much hiking, but more history side, I guess, because excuse me. Simply because it's just a castle. We're just walking to a castle and that's about it. So yeah, I've never been before. Let's go check it out. Well, here it is. It's actually quite a bit bigger than I thought. I know that I don't think there's much left. It is obviously a ruin, but we're going to see if we can get up there across this big main road. So this isn't the easiest place to get to because it's just a ruin and no one's there. You're not really. It's not like any organisation run it and you pay to go in or anything. It's just there. It's just been abandoned and left. And it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's in between Stafford and Uttoxeter, sort of bang in the middle in between them. So the only way to get here, really, I mean if you drive, but I don't know where you'd park, but other than that you either need to get to Stafford or get to Uttoxeter. I went to Uttoxeter because it's easier for me. And then I'll let all these cars go by. Right, and then once you're either at Stafford or Uttoxeter, look at that, that's gorgeous. All the birds nesting there, that's so cool. But yeah, once you're at Stafford or Uttoxeter, you get the 841 bus, which takes you to the other place essentially. It either takes you to Stafford or Uttoxeter, and it goes this route. So at that point, just keep an eye on your phone, on the maps, or just keep an eye out with your eyes, and as soon as you see the castle, press your stop button on the bus, and you can get off. And you've still got to walk a little bit to get to it, or just tell your bus driver that you want to get off as close to the castle as you can, and then you've got to find your way up there, which there is apparently a path somewhere here, which I'm currently looking for, so let's find it. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any way in, even though on the old OS maps, the ordnance maps, apparently there is a way in, a path right here, which doesn't seem to exist. So I think I might have to climb over this. I've got to be careful there though. Alright, wish me luck. Right, I'm over, I made it, I am alive. And there is a path, there is a path, it doesn't lead to anywhere. You can't really get to it without hopping that fence. Maybe on the other side you can get to it, I don't know. That way was the closest way for me, so if you do come here you might have to do that. But let's check out this castle. I mean, look at this. I got a great day for it actually. This is a gorgeous day. But this place used to be, this was a significant castle, you can tell really just from Like, these towers were big. There was probably a few more of them. I think I read somewhere there was like 5 towers. And it's just a place that's been left, abandoned, and seemingly kind of forgotten about, because I mean, no one's here, obviously. Heritage England isn't here. They aren't charging you to go in this place, thank God, because a lot of their places are absolute rip-offs. But there we go. I kind of like that though. I kind of like that some of these castles have just been left to time to take over, overgrown and all that stuff. It's quite surprising that even like so much of those towers have survived. Whoa, slippy here, Jesus Christ. Yeah, like I'm surprised there isn't actually there's this much of it left, because it's been abandoned for a long time. We'll talk about the history like more when I get in there, if I get in there. But it's essentially been abandoned, I believe, since like, you know, 1400s, 1500s really. Like, it was used for a few hundred years pretty extensively, but it's been abandoned a long time, so it's surprising that there's so much left. Let's try to find a way in. This is pretty glorious countryside here. It looks like this is probably the best way in. If you keep coming round, you're gonna see this lake, which I think was part of the moat, but we'll talk about that later. And there is a gate here which seems pretty easy to climb, so that's probably the best way in. Again, don't know if I'm breaking rules. Maybe not. It says please shut the gate. Well, that's like an invite, so let's go. Here we are. Sun's blistering down on us, so I don't know how good you can see here with the sun. We'll get some good shots though. Bloody hell, I can't even see. I mean, what birds are those? No idea. Don't know anything about birds. Like, this grass is like clearly cut and managed, so someone comes up here. Let's go in the shade. Wow, look at this. Yeah, someone clearly comes up here and manages it. I guess because it's a scheduled monument and all that someone has to. So there isn't loads left. It looks like there's more than there is from down there. It's basically just these little facades. It's like an old Hollywood film where they just built the front. But this whole area would have been pretty big, wouldn't it? And I don't think this was built back in 1200. This brick, they've obviously replaced that. Oh god, this is steep. Let's get to the top. Let's get to the top. There's probably a good view up here. Whew. Oh wow. Check that out. Check that out. It's still got the old steps. Yeah, I didn't actually expect that. That's pretty damn cool. Woo! And check out these views. That's the main road. That way to Uttoxeter and that way to Stafford. I mean, you can see why they built a castle up here, because you've got such good vantage points. You've seen all your enemies coming, and it was essentially built as like a stopover point between Stafford and Chartley Castle. Chartley Castle isn't that far from here. I like it. I like this. This is cool. Rightio. The place has basically been inhabited since before this castle, like since like the Bronze Age. So you know, you're talking like between 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, between 1,000 and 3,000 years ago. Obviously not as a castle, but there's been evidence of, you know, people finding Bronze Age weapons and things here on this hill. Again, you can see why hills are always very strategically important. You know, different sorts of tribes have come through here over thousands of years and settled and moved on. You know, possibly Romans as well. But those people that did live here, you know, near enough, well, 1,000 years ago, these tribes and different people that settled around this area and probably on this hill as well, they were a great threat of Viking raids actually around here, because the Vikings back in the day, one of their favourite rivers to traverse was the River Trent, which isn't too far from here. So it was quite scary to live here for a time, because the threat of a Viking pillage and raid was very real. Like for example, not too far away, a monastery at Repton, which is in Derbyshire. It's sort of just south of Derby, I think. That got raided in what year? I've got it written down here. 873. So the year 873, Repton was raided, pillaged by the Vikings. But luckily, the people who lived here around Chartley, before all this was here, even before all this castle, they just lived on this hill or around this hill, this area. Luckily they escaped and were not ever attacked, mainly due to the land actually around it was incredibly boggy and hard to traverse, so the Vikings left them alone. And even today there is areas of land, there's an area of land not too far from here, I think it's that way. It's a nature reserve called Chartley Moss Nature Reserve, which is probably how it was back then. I think it's unchanged really. And it's so dangerous there, even today, that you actually are not allowed to go in there without some sort of guide, like a local guide. There's a few people apparently that know the way through there safely, and obviously it's a host of probably endangered birds and animals and different things and plants and whatnot, fauna. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to go there one day. I thought there doesn't seem to be anything online that, you know, you can really arrange, but I've heard about people say online that you can go there, so I'll have to try and look that up a bit more, because that'd be a cool place to go, somewhere so dangerous, because there's not many places in England really where it's, you know, it seems so safe, everything's so safe, you're never really far away from any civilization. But there are places, even in England, where, you know, you don't want to mess about with nature. It's been untouched, and, you know, you take a wrong step, you're going to sink into a bog and never be seen again. But that just goes to show, really, that even today, some of this area is probably how a lot more of this area was back then. So the Vikings left them alone. They didn't want to bother. They sacked Repton instead. So after that period, by 1066, obviously, famously, the Normans invade, and William the Conqueror's standard bearer, who, if you don't know what a standard bearer is, it's basically someone who holds the flag in battle, which doesn't sound like that important of a job, but it was deemed very important of a job, and it was quite a prestigious rank to have. And they also they did other things. They did not just like carry a flag, you know. They were I looked it up, and there was, you know, there's reports about them like being in charge of the money, you know, to the soldiers and stuff like that. So they had other duties, and they were quite an important person. So William the Conqueror's standard bearer, he was a guy called Henry de Furs. Now I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'll write it down on the video, someone can tell me if I'm doing it wrong. It's either Henry de Furs or Henry de Ferrers, maybe Ferrers, something like that. It's French, and I am not French, so I'm going to butcher a lot of these names. So I'm going to call him Henry de Furs, which might be right, might be wrong. I tried looking it up on YouTube, see someone else say it, and I couldn't find anyone else saying it. But there was one pronunciation website that said de Furs, so I'm going to say Henry de Furs. So it was given to him. A lot of the Midlands was essentially given to him, all the Midland lands. And by 1090, so nearly 30 years after the Battle of Hastings, there was a wooden keep here. So none of that is obviously here anymore. But there was a wooden keep here on this hill. So that's the start of Chartley Castle, really. And again, it was built as a, in between Stafford and Tutbury castles, which were both already built, as a sort of stop-off point, and also to keep an eye on the peasants rebelling, anything like that, just another safe spot. But obviously it took so long to travel back then, so it was a good stop-off point. Great views. So yeah, Henry de Furs, he was made like Earl of Chester by this point. He was actually buried at Tutbury Priory, which is now St Mary's. It's a Norman church in Tutbury. I've been to it. I've not been inside. I'd really like to. It's a gorgeous Norman church. It's got like a great frontage. I'll put a picture up of it. It's one of the best examples of like Norman architecture that's like really well preserved. The frontage is great. Apparently he's buried there. I don't know if he still is. He was buried there, that was like nearly 1,000 years ago, so whether he's actually still there. But next time I am there, I will try to find out, and I'll go in and ask someone, is Henry de Furs buried here? Because that would be cool. I love trying to find the connections and everything, try and find. So that's a recommendation. If you're in Tutbury, I mean there's Tutbury Castle anyway, which is pretty good. It's a good castle. But also the Norman Church, St Mary's, check that out. And if you're there, see if Henry de Furs is buried there. So now we're going to fast forward to around about 1220, when this was the 6th Earl of Chester now, so we're on the 6th Earl. It was a man called, again I'm going to maybe butcher this, Ranulph de Blunderville, I think he is his name. And his name literally means he who ransacks cities, which is pretty badass, isn't it? Essentially because of his deeds during the Crusades. He ransacked a lot of cities. Look at that, that's so cool. But yeah, he is the one that built the actual stone, the stone keep that we see still standing today. This castle, Ranulph de Blunderville, who came back from the Crusades. So this was around about 1220. And he had a bit of a hobby of building castles, because he built this one, and he also built Bolingbroke and Beeston castles. And essentially he sort of owned a lot of the Midlands at this point, after Henry de Furs. But he built this one, Bolingbroke, which I've not been to Bolingbroke, but I have been to Beeston Castle. Which is a pretty cool castle. Again, it's an annoying one because just segue into a little review of Beeston Castle. Sort of similar to this, very similar. You can actually see, like, architecturally, they're built by the same guy, you can tell. But it's an annoying one because English Heritage have it, which is that's unfair. It's a good thing because obviously they maintain it and keep it and all that stuff. I'm not slagging them off completely. But they charge you £10 to go in. I think actually it might be 11, or it was either 10 or 11. If you're a member or something, it's a little bit cheaper, but it is like a ridiculous price for what Beeston Castle is. Beeston Castle is essentially this. There is no more to Beeston Castle than this. Like, to be fair, there might be more here castle wise, I'm not sure. It's very similar. and it's just not worth the admission price. Like, there's not really many information boards or anything anywhere. I mean, you can understand there not being any information boards here because it's just abandoned. But Beeston Castle, it's got a very small kind of museum thing, but you don't even have to pay for that bit. You can just walk in there, and it's before you pay, so you could just go and look at that for free. But yeah, Beeston is a very nice castle. It's on a big hill, and that's probably the best thing about it, is the views over Cheshire. You can see for miles. You can see like Liverpool and Jodrell Bank and places from it. And it is a nice castle. It's a nice ruined castle, but there's not a lot of it left like this one. Yeah, they charge like £10 to go in there, and it's ridiculous for that, because there's no information boards really. There's not much there. It's nice to walk around, and you know, there's a sort of park area and everything. It's actually quite popular. A lot of people go there, a lot of families and stuff. So it's almost used a bit more as like a family sort of park playground type area. So if you don't like kids running around screaming, Beeston, it might disappoint you a bit. Which, I mean, I've found there was a lot of kids and stuff around, which is fine. You know, it's good that they're into history and stuff, and it's good that they're there at least learning somewhat. There is a plane. I think there's like an airfield around here, like a flying school or something. There's planes keep going past. But yeah, I'd recommend going to Beeston, but it wouldn't be on your, you know, on your highest bucket list of castles to go to. Because it's way overpriced. You shouldn't even really pay going there, but I could understand, you know, if it was a couple of quid, if it was like £3 or £4, I'd be like, fair enough, you know, you got to upkeep and maintain the castle, so, you know, fair dues. But a tenner is ridiculous. So listen to me, English heritage, you need to lower your prices, especially because if you go, like, I've been around Europe to different castles, and their castles are like, some of them are incredible. Like, I've been to in Spain, there was a pronunciation, I'm not going to get this right, I think it's Zatvia, it's with an X, but I think it's pronounced Zatvia Castle. Like, absolutely fucking incredible castle, like, again on this big hill, and it's huge. It's almost like, it's like a mini Great Wall of China. I'll put pictures up. It's a great castle, and it was like €6 to get in, and it's huge. And there's been others. I've been one in Switzerland, Thun Castle, and I swear that was about €5 or €6 as well to get in, and it was huge, and you could go around the entire thing. It was all intact, you know, go up to the roof and everything. It was so cool. So to charge £10 to see essentially this, because it's very similar to this, it's pretty outrageous. I need to stop ranting about Beeston Castle. That's total segue. But he made Beeston Castle. So Ranulph de Blunderville, he actually died without any heirs, and funnily enough, it reverted back to the Defers family. Through marriage, it reverted back to them, so they got it back. And then, so the great grandson of the original guy that built the wooden one, Henry Defers, it was his great grandson Robert who then owned Chartley Castle, and he got up to a bit of mischief because he joined a rebellion against Henry III. This was 1264, and attacked Worcester. And because he attacked Worcester, the castle of Tutbury was destroyed because of that, in retaliation for him betraying his king and attacking. So Castle of Tutbury was destroyed. It was rebuilt, but it was destroyed, and Chartley was left basically undefended and was taken by the Prince of Wales. But again, you know, years went by and it was retaken again. Eventually Robert retakes Chartley and marches on to Chesterfield. He didn't stop. He He was still against Henry III. And the Battle of Chesterfield, which was 1266, was a big defeat for Robert de Furs, and he was taken prisoner and lost all of his lands and his castles. And there's a funny, interesting little legend about that whole period, because on that fateful day, the May 16th, 1266, it was Battle of Chesterfield, and it was said that here at Chartley Castle, that a black calf was born on the day of the battle. So then it became a legend that it was a bad omen, and that whenever a black calf was born here in Chartley, it meant that terrible things were coming to the de Furs family, because that's when he lost the battle. Which I love stuff like that. I love like strange little legends, and like who knows if they're true or not, but it's that magical element again of history which is so cool. And so people say as well that the whole legend of the black calf is that whenever black calves were born here at various points, apparently it followed, what followed was like a death in the de Furs family. So it was either very coincidental, or who knows what was going on. You can see here as well, this was probably another of the towers, the round towers. It's a bit of a drop in it, that. Yeah, you can see it here, so it goes around. So there were more towers. It was pretty big, this place. But eventually, back to the history, eventually the de Furs family, they got back on board with the royalty, with the monarchy, and they were sort of friends again. Again, this was a few generations later, like eventually, one of the de Furs, Edmund de Furs, actually fought with Henry V at the Battle of Agincourt. So, water over the bridge, water under the bridge, whatever they say. The de Furs rebelled, and they lost lands, gained land, but eventually they sort of made up. This 1415 Battle of Agincourt, so they were all good by then. But it was around this time, around 1415, that all this castle at Chartley was actually abandoned around that time, largely anyway. Which seems crazy because that was so long ago still. So it's been abandoned for so long. But it was abandoned because a new hall was made, essentially, called Chartley Hall, which isn't here anymore because it burnt down in a fire. But nearby there was a big manor called Chartley Hall that was built, and I'm gonna try and sort of see where it would have been. And I've got a feeling from looking online and stuff that it was actually sort of around about where this moat was. This lake, I don't know if you can see it there, but yeah, the castle was largely abandoned at that point, when they built this big hall, because they sort of realised that this castle was a very drafty, sort of miserable place to live, and that the halls were a lot better. But when Edmund died, the hall, because the castle was abandoned, so the hall became the most important thing then. The hall went to his daughter Anne, and then her husband Walter, who was, I guess this is French names, like, give me strength, Devereux, I think. I'll write it down, Walter Devereux, I'm going to say. And he became the first Baron of Chartley. But again, this was largely kind of forgotten about. It was all about the hall then. But even him, Walter, he came to a nasty end fighting for Richard III. Bad idea. Then if we fast forward again to 1585, Elizabeth I, good old Queen Liz, she ordered Mary Queen of Scots to be kept here. Not in the castle. So it is often said that Chartley Castle was a prison for Mary Queen of Scots. Not technically not. It was the hall that she stayed at, because again, by by the 1500s no one lived here. So it was the hall somewhere down there, down by the water. Check that out. I don't know if you can see it, but some graffiti from good old 1986. People have been coming up here for a long time. There's another one here, 1987. I'm not going to add my own, but it's kind of cool. So yes, Elizabeth I ordered Mary to be moved here at Chartley Hall, which I believe would have been around here somewhere. There isn't much information about Chartley Hall, but I mean there's a big kind of hall here, so it's like maybe that's the rebuilt version of it. But I did see some things online about it had a map and it marked this area and then it marked this as the moat, and then like a little bit further up like a field as well was marked as something. So it was around here somewhere, I believe, where Chartley Hall was, where Mary Queen of Scots was kept prisoner. She was moved from Tutbury on the orders of Elizabeth, which was probably pretty. Mary was probably pretty happy about, because she absolutely hated Tutbury Castle. It was the worst prison of all the castles that she was sent to put prisoner in. Tutbury was the worst one, drafty, cold and miserable, and there was fumes, like boggy fumes all around. It made her ill and stuff. She was already pretty sick anyway by that point. So she was probably quite happy to be moved to Chartley Hall, down here, down by this lake. And she spent 9 months here. And it's pretty important, because this is where the fateful Babington plot was discovered, which led to Mary's death, Mary's execution. So it was around here where the Babington plot was discovered, which was a plot essentially to overthrow and kill Elizabeth I. And across this moat, well, I think it must be here, because there's no other body of water around. That's a great house as well, that, bloody hell. It's not marked as anything on the map, so I think it's just some very rich person's house. But yeah, so across that moat it was discovered because there was empty ale casks that were floated across with messages hidden inside, from Mary to a guy called Francis Babington, which is the Babington plot is named after. You know, she was sending secret messages to him, which detailed the plot to assassinate good old Queen Elizabeth I, and they were planning on coordinating like a Spanish invasion from the Netherlands. But all these messages were being intercepted by the Queen's spies, and obviously the Queen was quite furious about this, and she sent Mary to be beheaded. But at that point she'd spent 19 years as a prisoner. 19 years, which is pretty insane. Travelled around to different places. So it's hardly surprising, really, that she was pretty desperate to get free at any point, at any cost, really. But it was here where these messages were intercepted and discovered, and now it's just someone's house, seemingly. I very much doubt I can go over there. It's going to be private land. That bridge is lovely though. It's a lovely area. And it's gorgeous place. Clouds come over now, but yes. But the original Chartley Hall, where Queen Mary stayed, it burned down in a fire in 1781. So it's no longer here. There's no longer any evidence of it, except maybe this, which might be its rebuilt version, I guess. So again, this is seemingly another kind of pretty important place, with all these goings on. The Babington plot was a pretty famous, pretty important event, and it it's all just sort of left and forgotten. Nobody really knows, driving past here, what went on here. And this is my first time visiting it as well. So what my review of it will be, I mean, it's pretty cool. I like it. I like that it's out in sort of in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of a bit of a tricky place to get to. No, I mean, not ridiculously tricky or anything, but you know, no one else is here. It's pretty cool, and I mean, it's free, unlike Beeston Castle. So I've just found this as well. So there's a lot of sign here: Chartley Castle repaired and repointed. I don't know what repointed means. Restored, I guess, in May 1998 to last for 200 to 300 years. So I guess I mean that bit anyway. Maybe they restored quite a bit of it. But yes, that was Chartley Castle. You know, very interesting place, very, you know, steeped in history and stuff. And this is, you know, you got a lovely day, and if you're nearby, I'd recommend coming here if you can at all. Obviously, if you can drive, I don't know where you'd park, but you could find if you could find somewhere to park. I mean, this would be a great place. Have like a picnic, have some food, chill out for a few hours, watch the sunset, and be surrounded by such history, such important history, especially with, you know, Mary Queen of Scots, which is, you know, one of the most famous figures in Britain, really. But yeah, that was Chartley Castle. I'm gonna head back now. I'm either probably gonna catch the bus back, because walking will probably be about an hour or 2 hours back to Stafford. So yeah, not much of a hiking video today, but lots of history. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and do all the YouTube shenanigans, you know, subscribe and whatnot. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.